Is anybody out there? Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today we have a webinar on voice, presentation, and prop play. I'm really excited and a little nervous to present to you today. We're currently live on Facebook, and later we'll be uploading to YouTube. Please feel free to leave comments either below this live post or on the comments below the YouTube video. Whether you're watching live or watching the recording, please know that all comments and interactions are welcome. This is our community. The webinar will run for roughly 40 minutes, give or take, followed by a brief break, then an interactive workshop on Zoom. The workshop will complement what you see here, and it'll be from 2 to 3 p.m. EST today. My name is Lily. I will be your presenter for today. Very excited to be here, and thank you for having me. Okay, let's see if you're ready to use the comment section below. If you haven't already thought about how teaching is an art and a science, it always requires some performance. It's a great time to start thinking about that. So if you were teaching a class on utensils, would you bring an actual fork to class? Or would you maybe use something like your phone and use fork? Do you use props or not? Now, Qkids doesn't require us to use them, but we could. If not, would you consider using props if you knew how to use them without feeling awkward or like a clown? Oh, and please check the comment section down below for a PDF that you can print and make your own props. We'll be using those later on in the workshop. And we might naturally want to think about people who inspire us. So let's think of some favorite educational shows. Now, we might think of these shows because it does have to do with performance and delivery. There might be some great aspects to take away from our favorite shows, but it doesn't mean that we have to do all of it or even any of it all of the time. There is simply a lot of stuff that we don't have to do. Do you have one or two, television programs that immediately come to mind that make you feel, really good about the whole idea of learning from a character or someone on screen? For me, when I was a little girl, I loved the Polka Dot Door. It was a weekly television series here in Canada. It featured songs, stories, and then it also had an educational element. Of course, there's Fred Rogers, Mr. Dress-Up. I'm really looking forward to seeing your comments down below. I know that you'll be able to jog my memory of some things that I may have forgotten. So as we start to think of these things in this webinar, we're going to be paying attention to voice and presentation. So we want to be clear that even though we may feel that presentation is about entertaining and, just having fun, it actually can help a lot for our students to learn, if we're paying attention to our voice and presentation. These techniques that we'll be covering today are more of an extension rather than a theatrical element. A lot of times, we may think of physical responses and prop techniques as edutainment. This association may simply come from the shows that we just thought of. And we might think that using props is solely about play or something extra in class. At times, it can really help a student understand and solidify language learning and give them those learning supports. So just two examples of how paying attention to our voice and presentation is not about edutainment, but about supporting. Imagine that you're in class and you're teaching about forks and spoons and other utensils, and you're going, Fork, fork, fork. Fork, fork, fork. Because maybe one of the students thinks it's a really funny word. So that would be entertainment or theatrics. And what you're getting is a quick response or a quick laugh, as they say. But if you take the time to model fork and repeat with purpose, fork, fork, fork. It's with the intention to support language learning. So of course your goal is to emphasize the sounds, repeat the sounds, and stretch out those sounds. Although going fork, fork, fork might be more entertaining because I'm close to the camera and playful with them. But I could also consider presenting closer to the camera and to show my mouth movement by emphasizing the sounds. F or k, fork. And then once modeled clearly, then you can have some purposeful repetition, therefore focusing on emphasizing those sounds, and then how to remember the word. Do you remember how Mr. Rogers spoke slowly and deliberately? It really felt like he was talking with us. So it's the same thing with props. I could play and just go, nom, 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 fork, 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 and pretend to have a feast like I'm a cartoon character and just be silly. Or we could have a real life reason why we're acting it out. Mm, mm, mm. Do you want some? Yes, fork. So hopefully that helps to outline or set the stage as we start to think about presentation and performance techniques, how it relates to our voice, how it relates to our overall presentation, and how we might be using props. So if you're interested in these topics, each will have roughly 15 minutes each, and hopefully you'll stick around for the ones that you want to learn about. And of course, we'll be diving deeper in the workshop later. Okay, so let's get started. So here, we'll take a brief look at the advantages of these performance techniques that look at voice, presentation, and use of props. I'll just give you a few moments to go ahead and read. Of course, if you're watching the recording, you have an advantage. Just pause and take all the time you need. You know, there really are so many educational reasons that we would consider using performance techniques to help us in the classroom. And just a few of my favorites are, I really do love them all, but let's see, points of interest for interaction and communication. You know, I feel that that can really create a real personal experience. Let's see. Ooh, yes. Performance techniques can really help with their energy, especially if it's taxed or they're feeling depleted. You know, they might need a brain break. They may be genuinely tired and need to move their bodies just to, you know, refocus. Oh, yes. And sustaining energy during transitions so that you have a nice fluid flow between your slides. Oh, and team spirit and awarding. Ooh. And of course, we'll dive deeper into these during the workshop. And again, we'd love to hear maybe your favorites down below, or maybe something that you might like to try. Now, as we start thinking about this, there are a couple things to keep in mind. You can do all of this yourself. You know, we don't need to go out and purchase anything. Qkids doesn't require us to have props, but they're a lot of fun and they can elicit engagement with the students while practicing their language output. You can start with simple stuff, First, paying attention to your voice, camera, and body. These can be done right away, right here, and right now, and they don't cost a thing. Ooh, miming. Miming, simply acting words out or concepts for understanding. Maybe using your hands to show the shape of things. Ooh, spoon. Ooh, knife. Or maybe, hello. Maybe you'd like to invite the students to participate. Yes. Maybe you would like to use actual real items. Now, of course, it's really nice and it's simple, but let's be honest. We don't always have all of the real items for target vocabulary in our homes. We can use, we can use paper props because maybe they help how we communicate something with our student. Now you'll see examples of this later in the workshop, and of course later in the webinar and also later in the workshop. And the PDF should be down below. Oh, now one last thing to keep in mind. Anything that you see here needs to take into account what's going on with your students. You must pay attention to the class dynamics, and then how to adapt to that. Keep in mind that what you're seeing here today, again, is not about theatrics. It's not about us being actors in our classrooms or pretending to be something that we're not. It's truly about being student-centered and thinking about how any of these different kinds of movements and actions or play could affect students and their language learning. So to quickly review, the Qkids platform equips you with the tools you need for a successful lesson. And these strategies today are just to add to their language learning, not for theatrics. So so that we can maintain a student-centered experience. Okay, we're ready. Now we're going to begin with our 3 main topics: voice, presentation, and play. First of all, if we're going to be doing anything with our voice, we really need to protect it. No voice, no teaching. So we need to protect it, especially with the early mornings, maybe lots of classes back to back. Those classes can really be a strain. So let's talk about taking care of ourselves first, and then we'll talk about how we may adjust. Okay, so these are some quick tips. I know that first one, right? How many times have we heard, drink plenty of water? We always hear it, but it's true. I have my kettle right here. I drink warm water pretty much throughout the day. And it just is a great way to ensure that I stay hydrated. Sorry, yeah, you may not like me for this one, but you may want to try limiting your caffeine intake. It can be a bit of a diuretic, but listen, I have a little to go around for you. If you do drink coffee or caffeinated beverages, simply try balancing them by drinking 1 cup of water for each caffeinated beverage that you consume. Caffeine can help you stay awake, but the water will quench your thirst and keep you hydrated. Throat coats. So things that coat our throats that can be soothing. So herbal teas. I do have my favorites, but I'll share those during the workshop. Honey, right? Honey is a really great throat coat that soothes any irritation naturally. Experiment with what works for you, and keep in mind that you just want to keep your throat from drying. Rest your voice. Yeah. Yeah, you know, and get enough sleep. With our schedules, that may mean splitting up our sleep cycles with naps. I authorize naps. Ooh, the mic. So here, I'm suggesting that we find the sweet spot. You may even want to turn up the volume. You know, my voice tends to be quiet and soft, so I tend to try to keep my mic close to my mouth. If you have a deeper or maybe stronger voice, you can just adjust the mic up. So find the sweet spot for you. Posture. So you want to have a chin up, chest up. That way it opens up your throat. You may even want to elevate your screen. You may have to change the screen, which will encourage you to maybe sit up straight to open up that throat. We will go deeper into posture a little bit later. Okay. Here's some examples that you may find useful and to incorporate into your daily routine. You can do them while checking your camera, checking your specs, maybe reviewing your classes. And yeah, this is where I may embarrass myself a little bit, but it's for you, my fellow colleague teachers. Okay, so let's look at the first one. That's an easy one, stretching, right? So maybe you just want to simply stretch your diaphragm with a big breath in. Oh, and a gentle exhale. Again, lift your voice. And here, the concept is to support your voice with your core muscles. I promise they're in there. They're in there, I promise. Again, I'll deep dive into posture a little bit later. Okay, here's where we have a little bit of fun. Here we can do maybe some yawning exercises and add a little bit of tone. So, of course, we want to make sure that we got those yawns out of the way before class. We don't want to be yawning during class. So when we do this one, they may want to turn into real yawns, and that's okay. So it could look something like this. Also, swallowing is a great thing to do, especially in class if you don't have water, simply swallow. 20 seconds of humming up and down. Now, I'm no singer. I'm just going to hum. Hum it with me, please. May look something like this. And of course, you can have as much fun with that as you want. Okay, breath vibrations. This is where I'm going to move the microphone a little bit, especially because I don't want to blow out any of your speakers, and especially if you're wearing a headset, I don't want to blow out your ears. So here, I'm just going to do what I think is referred to as bumblebee lips. So I'm going to be doing tones up and down, and it may look something like this. Oh, and here's a really fun one. You know, a lot of times in the morning, it's important to we want to just relax our jaw. You know, it's early. We may be feeling tense. Maybe our class just changed and we're just, ooh. So here, if you just cup your hands and then give yourself a little shake while releasing your jaw. It might look something like this. La, 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 la. Come on, do it with me. Don't leave me hanging, guys. Ready? La, 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 la. You'll notice that your jaw kind of shakes into relaxation. And now you're ready. Of course, there's tongue twisters or, sing your favorite songs. Okay, moving on to voice control. This slide simply just has some definitions behind voice dynamics, just to keep in mind. These are important, especially when you want to tie them into the tags and checklists, right? They're really important to consider, especially when referencing this. Specifically, maybe sound control, quality, and engagement. Okay, so here are some practical applications for using voice effectively. Something to keep in mind is not to confuse enthusiasm with excitement, because what happens is your pitch gets higher. You know, it's early and we may be trying to overcompensate because we're feeling tired, and we want to hide that by maybe being a little extra excited and trying to be enthusiastic. And it could sound like, oh, look, you have a puppy? You know, so now my voice was far too high and it was very unnatural and quite frankly annoying. So voice and energy, you know, they really do go hand in hand. Our voice carries energy. We can accidentally use too much of our energy by using our voice in different ways. Maybe the high pitch or too loud, trying to sound excited or trying to be excited, which can really wear us out and also our voice. And something to go maybe a little bit deeper is that it can also wear out the students. So we definitely want to keep that in mind. Okay, so tone helps convey emotion. A tone can sound warm and approachable or harsh and angry, even with the same words or phrases. For example, okay, hi, how are you? Or, hi, how are you? So now I'm feeling roughly the same, but my voice is carrying a far different energy and could also cause different effects. These effects might not be what we want to intend, you know, for our students to experience. And that would just be based on our tone and voice alone. Okay, so how fast or how slow that you may be speaking. Now, I truly apologize. You know, I may be speaking quickly today. I'm live on Facebook. I'm nervous. Faster can convey excitement or an energetic nervousness. Slow and monotone speech can sound boring or that you're just really uninterested. You know, this could happen while we're while we're concentrating, we're listening, maybe we're multitasking on the platform. Try not to let it show or let it be heard in your voice. So have fun and find your rate of speech that provides clear enunciation and allows pauses for the students to understand what you're saying and how they can follow along easily. Ooh, whispering or using a quiet voice to convey an emotion or maybe excitement. You could have them listen carefully. Oh. It can also help to control their volume, as they may naturally mimic you and think that there is something exciting coming up. And of course, there is something exciting coming up because you're the teacher and it's your presentation style that you're showing them. And also, quiet voices can help refocus the students. Projection. So you can convey a loud voice without shouting, simply maybe by lowering the tone of your voice, deepening it, and then adding hand motions as though I'm shouting or yelling without actually interfering with the volume of your mic. Okay, so something we want to keep in mind is that we want to start and finish with quality teaching. So let's see, what's the difference between sitting like this and sitting upright in my chair and ready to go? You definitely want to think about your professional presentation. And then once you establish your posture, you can easily focus where you are in the camera and how that looks. So you might want to use, the pyramid concept. So pretend you're in a pyramid, you want to be in the center. Or maybe you think of the camera in thirds. So 1, 2, and 3. And we'll go further into detail with that a little bit later. Okay, so we want to keep in mind that we want to be active, lively, and engaged. To achieve this, we can use gestures. So first, our gestures are simply our body language, right? It's a movement with any body part. Maybe it's a high five, a thumbs up, or an invite. So you can use hands, fingers, thumbs, maybe shoulders. Really, we're just giving them permission to gesture. And we're being more lively, and maybe they'll be more lively too. Okay, movements. So movements can definitely convey meaning, just like my walk example, or maybe swim, fork. Okay, posture. Posture, this is where I'm going to dive in just a little bit deeper. Posture is extremely important whether you're a standing or a sitting teacher. I like to switch between both. So for both, you definitely want to ground yourself. So any standing teachers out there, I would love to suggest to you that you wear supportive shoes while you're teaching. That way and ensure that both feet are flat on the floor. And you want to stand tall with your back lifted, shoulders down, and then try to relax them as much as possible. You also may want to lean forward. Also having a short step or a stool in front of you that you can put a foot on, it can really help you shift your weight while you're teaching and you're still that forward movement. If you're a sitting teacher, so right now I'm sitting on my chair, you want to make sure that you're sitting square on the chair, both feet flat on the floor or maybe on the stool. Sit lifted from the hips, shoulders down and relaxed. So you can try that with me now. So let's see. If I just, slouch over. Yeah, like I can feel it in my voice. I can feel how my voice changed. I can feel that now my voice feels more back in my throat. I'm really not that energetic anymore, and it's kind of painful. But as soon as I, lift up straight, I have more projection and I feel supported. And personally, I feel ready and active. And I'm sure that my students probably feel that I'm more engaged too when I'm up straight. Ooh, facial expressions. Okay, so we can't be smiling all the time. Although, some of us do, and then our cheeks are sore after class, and that's okay. It just means that you've really enjoyed your students in the class. But here, we kind of want to think about, that resting brat face. We all do it. You may feel like you're smiling, but if you take a look at yourself, it may come off as something else. And again, this can be easy to do. You have a monotone voice or your resting brat face. Easy to do when we're thinking, concentrating, listening to our students, multitasking on the platform. Our face can fall. So keep in mind that your facial expressions need to remain lively and engaged. And of course, eye contact. You want to make sure that you're looking at the students in the camera, or at least in the vicinity of the camera, because we're constantly navigating the screen. Or maybe you want to make sure that you have eye contact with a prop that you're using. Ooh. So movement and space. This can be the difference whether or not your teaching is flat or whether it's dimensional. Even though we're on a flat screen, there is a 3D space in our classroom that we can utilize to allow depth for language learners to solidify certain words and terms. So let's see, timing, energy, and how you move. So are you moving, all over the place because you think, yeah, this is lively? Oh yeah, I'm so lively. No, actually it's a distraction and it looks quite frantic. You could give a high five slow, right? Do your high five slow first. Yeah. Allow your timing to be gentle, and then you can maybe build and increase your time and energy after they are participating with you, and then you can have a little bit more fun. Maybe you could be slow in confirming, right? Oh, or a simple hello. So we're not waving in the camera, hi, hi. Just a simple curl your fingers, hello. Also, camera depth, level, and distance. Okay, so we talked about that earlier, that you may need to adjust your camera up or down to remain centered in the screen. And so we want to use this purposely from there. So let's see, depth in your classroom. We don't want to sit too far back or, too close either. You kind of want to think of the Goldilocks rule. So it's just right. And then from there, you have the space to move and change it up. So for general presentation purposes, you want to be aware of your body language and these things because of how they bring the language to life, how they animate the language in an appropriate and natural way. It's really important to have that appropriate and natural way of presenting with body language, having movement, and having spatial awareness about your camera space. So for example, if I was explaining, these and those, those, I'm actually now using the camera to illustrate some depth. And I'm doing it intentionally. I'm not over here just lounging around, right? Ooh. I'm creating depth as a demonstration. And then I come back to center and we're ready to move on. Okay, so far we've been looking at voice and presentation. So we've been really focused on ourselves and how we present in the class and with this small screen. Then there's how we participate and make the students feel like it's time to participate. Remember how we thought about our favorite educational shows? And we wondered, how do they make us feel involved? And how do they get us to maybe follow along? Here, there are 3 great techniques. They're performance techniques and language learning and teaching techniques that we can use to have a rich experience in our classes with our students. Okay, so first is always to remember to confirm and recognize that the students are getting involved or that they want to and that they're even there. We have to show that we see their part and that we see them playing along. So that might be, it might mean doing a lot of, yes, yes, uh-huh, ooh, 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 uh-huh, yes, mm. So all we're doing here is we're simply acknowledging their involvement. And of course, we can also do these examples without saying yes. So we're still recognizing them and we're still confirming them. It may look just like this. So the next technique is yes and. This is simply the idea that you accept what someone said or did, and then you build upon it from there. So if a student says something that they like, you could say, ah, yes, and so do I. That can really allow an immediate connection between you and the student. Or, oh, yes, and that connects to something on the screen, and then you highlight or spotlight. Oh, yes, and what about you, student A, B, and D? Or this one's fun. Yes, and oh, that's something great to think about after class. So again, confirming and building to provide a rich language experience. Now, sometimes we can't build upon what they're saying due to several scenarios. So we can just do a yes without the and. So now, if we have yes anded something, and we've noticed maybe something of interest to the students, what we can do is we can bring it back later in the lesson by recycling it, or by working with it and playing with it again. Now, we know that Qkids hopes to recycle. Well, Qkids hopes that we will recycle language so that students have lots of opportunities to hear the same words, phrases, or meanings. But it's also a great way to ensure we're engaging with our students for a great learning experience. So really, in its most basic form, it's mostly being observant, interacting with a yes and then followed by recycling what you noticed and is of interest to them. Why? Why are these techniques important? Well, because what they have to say and offer is important, not only because it's of interest, but it's for their language learning development. When they hear back what they initially said, it shows that you heard them, that they're special to you, and it provides an authentic, interactive opportunity. Honestly, otherwise, what is the point of a live teacher? If we're just guiding them through the slides, they could easily use an app, watch TV, watch videos, watch a television program like we discussed earlier. This is the very reason why Qkids values having a live teacher and why it matters. It allows them to be recognized and have that rich student-centered support. And it can also be a great transition into play because you listened and you recognized, which allows the student-centered classroom. Okay, so again, here we're just raising awareness and providing techniques to be aware of about voice presentation, and now prop play. Now we'll be diving into how we can further with those things and with props and play. So if that's your thing and you're willing to try and incorporate basic props and ideas into your lessons, again, not theatrics, but for meaningful connection and language learning, because Qkids doesn't require props, but you may find value in using them for your students' language learning. So we simply want to inspire language learning. These are ideas to support meaning and comprehension. So here, keeping in mind that we are supporting language learning and providing a student-centered experience, we can use props to give an item life, right? Fork. Now, I believe this is a fork. This is not a phone, right? I truly believe it's a fork, so I'm going to use it as a fork and give it life as though it is a fork. Maybe I will make the most of real life modeling. So I will eat. I will demonstrate eating as though it is a fork and offering it to them as though I'm sharing. Also, I want to make sure that I'm using slow motion and repetitious movements as I'm emphasizing the sounds fork. And also we can use emotions that mirror real life situations. Oh, yum, 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 yum. Props can also provide student emotional support. They can help shy students. They can also provide a distraction for an upset child. You know, sometimes it's easier. It's easier to speak to Kobe. And sometimes it's easier to talk to Panda. So it could be a 2D prop or a stuffy. So again, we have those 2D props for you below in a PDF. You're more than welcome to print out, and we'll be using them again in the workshop. I'm really excited. I have some great examples that I'd love to share with you. Okay, so which of the techniques would you like to try? I invite you to bring your favorite prop or puppet or real life item. Your hand can be a great puppet with or without a sock. Whatever you have or you want to try, bring it. We can play with it, and we'll be using these presentation principles and having some fun. Or of course, if you have the time, print the PDF that's below. Here's some quick examples of what I've made from that PDF. Whoops. So now it's our break. And for those of you that want to return for a workshop, now first, we know that we announced and we said that the workshop would start at 2:15, but it's actually going to be from 2 to 3. So now if you can't jump on in until then, maybe you've made plans based on the previous post, not a problem. I'm just going to be in there longer. So of course, I'll let you in whenever you can join us. And if you can come earlier, I'll be in there at 2 for the full hour. So remember, it's an open workshop. I'll be taking questions, and I'll just be, guiding everyone with some fun hands-on experience together. Okay, well, it's time to go. So go find a prop, maybe something random. Anything can work, honestly. Come back, and I'm really excited to see you. Please think about having your cameras on, just so that we can encourage one another and share our tips and tricks from the webinar. It would be really great to have that visual of everyone, because I know you're brilliant, and I can't wait to see what you have to share. Okay, so if you have any comments or questions, leave them down below, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. And thank you, everyone. Happy teaching. Oh, high five, Panda. High five. Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.